My name is Professor Baldy, and I run a school for juvenile delinquents. But not just any delinquents. Mine are specially gifted. You might even call them mutants. Trust a few reformed ex-cons. Tangerine.
Am I the apple of your eye, Bubba?
Jeannie Gray. Beastie Boy.
Everybody dance now.
Snow Cone.
Is it hot in here, or is it just me?
And their friends from X-Farce. Cable TV.
Eat remote control, frog face.
Garfarel. Meow. Dominoes.
This book has just the right amount of cheese.
And introducing the Newt Mutants. Beware the rest. Magneto. Mistress Higgy. And not at all breaking the fourth wall. Cesspool. Now, Parity Press Comics is back with X-Farce Reloaded #1. Don't miss this extraordinary comics extravaganza with 7-fold color stories of marvelous mutant mayhem. Back this book today for awesome variant covers and original artwork tiers. 48 pages of action and hilarious hijinks by some of comics' funniest talents. Parity Press, making the world laugh again. Only on Indiegogo.
Well, that was epic. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Thursday night here on my channel. It's going to be an old-fashioned comic book gold type episode tonight. And without further ado, I'm just going to bring in our guest, the one, the only, the Mr. Don Chin.
Wullie, nice to see you.
That's
Cheers.
my special water. That's what gets me through the nights. How are you doing?
Is it scotch or what do you drink?
It is. Tonight I'm on. Hang on.
I know nothing about alcohol.
I'm on the Glenfarclas single malt, and it's a cask strength whiskey. So you might be on your own by the end of the show. I might just be lying on the floor, completely flat out. Yeah.
That's fine. No, whatever makes you relax is fine with me.
Excellent. Right. So before we get started with this, we're going to have a quick look at the chat and see who's there. Fun enough, I'm in the chat and so are you. That's good to see. You're here well before anybody else as well. I would just like to say, dear Lucifer.
Hey, Lucifer.
Card-carrying member of Team Dark himself, who has an amazing campaign out there right now, which is cheap as chips. So back it at least 10 times.
It is.
It's
I backed it. Ed Gein.
Yeah. If you like horror, then I think it promises to be pretty extreme horror. So hello there to Abominable Grizzly.
Hey, Abominable.
Don't worry, Don. Your feet are going to be fine.
Okay, I only have sandals on, so.
I don't know, but maybe I don't know. It's not an interrogation. It's not that kind of show. And we've got Job, Carl Stefan himself, Ole. Again, Beefheads. Surely everybody's backed that as well. I would imagine.
Oh, is that Carl? Is that Carl's alter ego?
It is indeed. That's his proper comics brand.
I have his. That's Chubb, right?
That is. Yep.
Okay, Chubb. Thank you, Chubb. I got your Mary voice. I told him I was going to open it live on a future stream, so I'm excited. I've heard a lot of good things about Mary Boys.
It is. It's incredibly good. It's proper old school indie comic, but it looks like a professional one, if you know what I mean. Remember when indie comics, you had people like Will Eisner doing covers for them and people working on them back in the day. It's got that kind of feel to it. It looks really gorgeous book.
Nice.
Evening, Adams. Good to see you, mate.
Hello, Adams.
Hey, everybody. Indeed. Stato.
Hi, Stato.
Good to see you, Stato. And Michael.
Michael McCartney. Is he related to Paul? Sir Paul?
I think they're cousins. He's Paul's Scottish cousin. Right, so thanks for joining us, guys, and everybody that's out there watching us on Twitch, or one of you, and anybody that's on Facebook that's watching us tonight, thanks for joining us. We are going to be doing an episode of Paul is My Uncle. There you go. Episode of Comic Book Gold, where Don and I are going to be talking about the kind of comics and the inspirations from comics that kind of like influenced him back in the day. And fun enough, in a lot of cases, me too, with his choices.
Nice.
But before that, and hey there, Devil Flyer.
Hi, Devil Flyer.
Before that, I'm going to kind of share the campaigns because that's in the contract. In the contract, whenever you do a YouTube show of any kind, you must share and go through the campaigns. And so, actually, what am I doing? I want to start with, let's say, organised. I want to start with this one here, X-Farce Reloaded, because I showed the trailer, which is great.
Thank you.
The Beastie Boy one.
We got Patrick Stewart for very cheap because of COVID. He wasn't working very much.
He wasn't working. He probably at his age, he probably thought that it was Marvel that were getting in touch with him anyway.
That's true. He has played Professor X.
He has indeed. I mean, if you've seen Picard, I don't know. But yeah, this is like I read this just a couple of days ago, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
This is in demand. It's up there. We're going to jump onto the campaign you're probably want to talk about more, which is the more recent one. You can also get it on that as well. But love this cover.
Thank you.
Retro. Was it? What's his name? Mark? No, it's not. It's
Mark Lewis. Yeah.
Yes, Mark Lewis. Yeah. I don't have my glasses, which is always the bane of me doing anything on here. Mark Lewis. Yeah, I love that cover. It's just proper old school parody, just done exactly the way it should be. You can almost smell the Silver Age from it. And it's a nice Rob Willis cover as well. You get loads of cracking choices.
Rob Willis, and there's more Mark. So Mark, I found in the 90s. We had a mutual friend. He was trying to break into the industry. So what you're looking at that page, Wullie, is from 1992, and then we recolored it. But the X-Cons cover is brand new, like 2021.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
And he actually worked on X-Men, the animated series, after he worked for Parody Press. So he's got a lot of X-Men drawing under his belt.
He's got proper X credentials, as it were.
Do you remember Frank Bruner from the 80s, Howard the Duck?
Yeah, Howard the Duck, and was it Warp?
Warp, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, he did Warp.
Yeah, based on a stage play of all things.
So Mark went to work after Parody Press. He couldn't quite make it in comics, so he went into animation and he went to work with Frank Bruner, doing X-Men.
Cool. Yeah, that's but yeah.
Cesspool.
I was wanting to ask you, how did you find the approach of parodying a character that's such an extreme parody of comics in the first place? What was your in to doing that?
Well, I tested the waters with the Turtles, and so after I did the Black Belt Hamsters, nothing was sacred.
Nothing was sacred.
Yeah, so Cesspool, he actually wasn't quite as popular when the original X-Farce came out in 1992. So he was just coming out about that time in the New Mutants. And now, because of the Deadpool movies and Ryan Reynolds, everybody knows who he is. But back when we parodied this particular character, he wasn't, I don't even think he had his own book yet. I think he was just starting to get fan appeal.
Cool. Yeah, what I really liked about this was I had that what I look for in an anthology of stories, and this is like an X-Men anthology kind of thing, an annual of different stories has been parodied, and it has that totally different art style in every strip.
Thank you. I like that.
Which is what I love about. It's also got Mike Barron involved, which is always a plus for any comic.
Thank you.
But
yeah, Mike's always he's very professional, and I actually just kind of put two and two together. Could you scroll back to that painted page that doesn't have any captions, Wullie? There you go, right there, the one with the dog. So this is the Newt Mutants, and that character with the dog, that's Wolfsbane, which I spelled WOOFSBANE, and she turns into a Scottish Terrier at Will. So I thought, because of your hosting, that I should bring that to your attention.
Yes, that's very good. Yeah, because why wouldn't you? if you're going to turn into a dog, that's the one you would go for. You don't want to be a large dog that goes to the throat. You want to be the one that nips at the ankles.
Yes, he's a little yapper. Do you have a dog?
No, I don't. No. If I did, it probably wouldn't be a Scottish Terrier, because I haven't met one yet that actually likes me.
Okay. No cat either? Do you have a cat?
Currently, no. No. I think
okay.
once we're through with the last of the lockdowns, we might well be now. I will probably think about maybe getting a four-legged friend of some kind.
Well, that's good.
But cat, I've had dogs and cats in the past.
Good.
So I don't favour either. They're both equally good. Oh, actually, I'm not going to show that because I'm going to mention that later on.
Okay. All right, no problem.
Yeah, but this is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I endorse it, and it's in demand. It's up there for you. Is it staying in demand sort of indefinitely, or have you got a time limit on it?
I think I might wrap this one up at the end of the year, end of this year, and then Beardzerker probably not that far after that, and then maybe do like a second chance campaign later in 2022.
Right.
So yeah, we're running some like Cyber Week specials on both campaigns, and I think we have an X-Farce snack pack combo, which you can get. I actually have a few of these lunch boxes left, which are metal lunch boxes. We only did like maybe 36 of them.
I'm going to big you up there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, so you get this, and then we have an X-Farce mug, and then you get your comic book of your choice, any of the 3 variant covers.
Excellent.
And I try to reduce the shipping as well for both foreign and domestic.
Yeah, your shipping wasn't half bad, because it's always a shock when you go through an Indiegogo or something, and then the shipping gets added, and then
I think yours are on the way. Chubb actually got his pretty quickly, so yours, I think you got the Beardzerker and X-Farce combo, so that hopefully it won't take too long.
Cool. I've read them digitally though, so but it'll be nice reading them with the actual physically once they get here. But I couldn't wait. Once I had to read them, and this was a lot of fun as well, because Beardzerker, a parody of the Keanu Reeves Berserker. Again, you've got like a selection of terrific artists working on the covers here for the various variants that you've got.
Thank you.
It was, I'm not even sure what one I picked, because it was hard to pick it. I might even just have gone eeny, meeny, miny and just going for one. But yeah, this again is a lot of fun, and it kind of harkens back to probably what we're going to be talking about when we talk about your influences as well, because it does have I could imagine this in some form being in Mad or Cracked magazine at some point along the line. It's
right.
It's almost like it's an amalgam of everything that's current and past to do with Keanu Reeves, all kind of like just getting the piss taken out of it, but in a kind of loving way, it has to be said.
Yeah, I think we talked about Mort Drucker on this CG UK show a couple weeks ago, and he was one of the big movie satire influences when I was growing up. And I've kind of made it a career to actually do long parody spoofs, but in my experience, sometimes maybe too long. I mean, I think if you can kind of boil it down and get the gist of it in a 4 or 5 page story, that's great. But just for the sake of having a sellable commodity, I've had to either do anthologies with popular parodies, or I'll try to milk it for a good 24 to 30 pages. And sometimes, with Beardzerker, I think it worked out pretty good. I had to kind of break up the parodies into different, scenarios and chapters. And then for the hamsters, that was just kind of an ongoing series. So I didn't really have to, have it all finalized.
This definitely worked for me when I read it anyway. Because like I was saying, because you're drawing so many influences from Keanu's movies and from lots of other things, it allows you to use the main kind of thread of the story as a way of kind of like linking them all in together. So it's kind of like I don't know, it brought to mind the Blues Brothers.
Oh, good.
The way that they structure the Blues Brothers, where you have the journey, and then that links with all the characters and all the kind of like incidents that they have, and that's kind of what I thought about after I read the first issue. So yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Cool. So so everybody, the links, by the way, are down in the description. Hopefully they work. Sometimes I do it in such a way they don't work, but hopefully they work. And if anybody wants to grab and put anything any links into the chat, please do so. But yeah, 2 really fun campaigns. Everybody should give them a look.
Thank you. Thanks, Wullie.
I'll just quickly pull up mine, which it's getting there. It's I should never have increased it from 52 to 64 pages for the 3rd issue, because it's taking a lot longer to complete. But because I'm going back and redrawing pages now, because I want to make it just perfect. So it's all 3 issues in my Ales of Dark Werewolves and Bampot campaign. There's lots of different tiers you can go for. I've put the making of up here separately. Quite a few people picked that up in the add-ons when they went through, but some people missed it. So I've put that up separately. That's the 28-page making of Ales of Dark, which is now 36-page making of Ales of Dark, because I've increased that in size as well. So everybody's getting more of everything in this campaign. So it's taking a wee bit longer to put it all together, but it's really going to be worth it at the end of the day.
And you're coloring and lettering everything, Wullie, on this?
Yeah, I'm doing everything, which is why it's taking a wee bit long. So writing, drawing it, designing everything, colouring it.
Looks great.
So cheers. So it's kind of like it's just fit it in whenever I can, and I'm getting it done.
Did you have a certain actress or model in mind when you created the character?
I did, and it's actually somebody I know, and I'm going to the making of. We'll have a picture of her as well, so people will say her name's Alex, and she was a few years ago a student of mine. In fact, both characters, Umer, the sidekick character, he again is based on a student of mine as well. And they both kindly one day let me take loads of snaps of them doing daft things in the college, and used them as a reference for whenever I needed it for the comic pages. So yeah, I try to do that with all my characters. I use myself as a model for the Tati Bogo man.
Oh no, you're much more handsome than him. That's great.
But yeah,
I was going to ask you, what was a good question there? So this is your 3rd issue. Are the other ones less than 64 pages?
The other ones were 2 36-page, and that's including covers, issues, and that was my first campaign. So there's a long kind of like story with Ales of Dark. I did a convention copy, which I ended up trashing. And then I did another convention copy, which I sold at convention. And then I Indiegogo campaigned the second issue and remastered the first issue while I did it because I wasn't happy with it. So the first campaign was those 2 issues. On purpose, I've not looked at those issues doing this one because I know I would start remastering other stuff as well. But, I'm like the poor man's George Lucas. I can't stop myself.
Do you work traditionally or digitally or both?
This is all digital, and that's Statistical Zero's print that everybody gets.
Like that.
Everybody gets that in the campaign. Yeah,
that's so beautiful. Good job, Stat.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous piece of that. And so it's been kind of like a labor of love and hate at the same time. But I started out doing an anthology with other people, and I thought to myself, I want to do something where it's just all me, everything is me, down to it. Sort of like some crazy Scottish narcissist, and that's what I've done with this. And I'm kind of proud of it. It's coming together, and it will get into people's hands.
It sounds like a great premise for a series or a movie or something,
It could very well be. If anybody's out there and interested in making it, then go for it. It could very well be. Both my characters, the Tatty Bogoman and the Also Dark, are highly influenced by Hammer horror movies and that kind of stuff. So I can see them. I always see them in like widescreen when I'm imagining them in my, when I'm writing the actual scripts out. So that's there. That's still in demand. So if anybody wants to give it a look, please do. And if they want to come also to my Tatty Bogoman's Tales of Mystery and Imagination and sign up for that, that will go live the minute I start fulfilling Also Dark. And that's an old school anthology that I published in Scotland a few years ago. And we did 4 issues of it. And this is going to be a collection, both a hardcover and a softcover collection. You can choose which one. It's going to be highly affordable if you go for the softcover. And
who are your favorite EC creators? Because obviously you're using a lot of EC comics.
Yeah, it's weird you say that. I'm going to seamlessly, without anybody noticing, I'm going to bring up something else. My favorite EC ones that I wasn't huge on EC comics because we never really, got the reprints over here. And I remember when we got them, they were all dead expensive. But it was the Warren comics that I was really into.
Okay, sure.
So when I did Tales of Mystery, the front cover was an EC pastiche. But when you open it up, the contents page is like a pastiche part of the Warren comics.
Okay.
So to let anybody know that it's kind of like it could go kind of either way with the kind of stories that we're doing. So I've only recently been really getting into EC, and it's me and Stato. We do a show where we compare the actual EC stories to the TV show that was on. So what we do is we read the actual stories and we watch the episodes, and then we do shows where we compare the original comics to the shows. But yeah, I think
that's a great thumbnail.
Yes,
that's
brilliant.
The most professional one I've been on.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a template. I go crazy with my thumbnails. I think Graham Ingalls, and I've got a real appreciation for Jack Kamen that I never really had before, because I've been buying the Fantagraphics volumes and they're in black and white, and yeah, I've just been kind of poring over them. But as I think, to say who my favourite is, I would probably have to go with Al Felstein, because he kind of pulled everything together. He wrote practically everything, and he could draw as well. So yeah, the way we've been going now, yeah, we need to invite you onto one of our EC shows, and we could talk about EC for about an hour and a half. But tonight, I noticed before it was too late, you can upload PDFs now onto StreamYard. Didn't realise that.
Hey, Wullie, I noticed that you've got the name of the file, but is my name, but it also says Frankenstein. So I don't know if I should be flattered or insulted.
Oh, hang on, I'll change that. That's a spoiler.
I know I have a big head, but it's not as big as Michael Bancroft. So
last week we were supposed to be doing a Frankenstein show. We're doing it next week.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So that's why because if I click on the actual layers, it gives me the names up there. So yeah, for instance, spoiler. There you go. What's coming up next? But yeah, there we go. There they are.
Oh wow! Man, I'm old.
Radioactive black belt hamsters. So was this your first published work?
Actually, it wasn't. I was in Cracked. My first very published work for pay was Cracked back in '83, and then prior to that, my friends and I self-published kind of a heavy metal homage called Overload, which was a fantasy humor magazine. So I did 5 issues of that, and then a few issues of Cracked. I never got to write the movie parodies though, because that was the job I think everybody wanted, and so I just kind of did little bits and pieces for Cracked. And this was all when I was, like in college, trying to find my way, and then I was owning a comic book store at the time, and then the Turtles were the big thing, and I got copies of the Turtles, and I looked at them and I enjoyed them, and so then I thought, what about a parody of the Turtles? I wonder how that would go. So that's kind of how the Hamsters came into being, and I sent it to Eclipse Comics, and they're actually Northern California based as well, which they were anyways, and that's where I live. And so I met them at a convention in the Bay Area, and then I developed a relationship with them, and so I thought, this isn't Marvel or DC worthy, but it could fit with an indie company, and I don't really think I want to publish it myself. So I sent it to them after Personovich drew the first issue, and they said that, yeah, they'll go ahead and give it a shot as a one shot. And then they got orders that were far and above anything they expected. And so after that, it went into a second printing, and then we did about maybe 15 or 20 issues with Eclipse.
Cool. Yeah, because I mentioned in the Carry On streaming show that I prefer this over the Turtles, because I think it's got more of a satirical eye to it.
Thank you. That's a huge honor. I mean, every once in a while we'll get people that tell me that they preferred the Hamsters over the Turtles, but I can tell you've read them both, and I had fun with them. There's a lot of me in each one of those characters.
Yeah, I think as well, being that bit older, so for young kids, the Turtles just turned into what it did, that phenomenon, which was aimed at kids. But being a bit older, there was just more to appreciate in the Hamsters as it continued. And I just liked the clips. I liked everything they were putting out at the time as well. So yeah, they did a really good job. And I could never know, how do you pronounce, was it Cat's surname?
Cat Ironwood.
Ironwood. I thought that was exactly because when I was first saw it, I was trying all different kind of thing. It just dawned on me recently that it's probably Ironwood. I just thought I'd check with yourself.
It's a weird spelling.
It is indeed.
I remember going to Eclipse's office, it was in a town called Guerneville, which is a real small town by a river. In fact, the river flooded one year, and it completely wiped out all of Eclipse's backstock, which was a shame. But I remember going into Eclipse's office. This is back in the 80s, and Cat Ironwood was the editor-in-chief, and her partner at the time was Dean Mulaney, and they were the Mulaney brothers were the owners of Eclipse. And funny story is that Jan Mulaney, who's Dean's brother, he was the producer for Michael Bolton, the singer in the 80s. And then, but anyways, Jan was more like the guy that cut the checks, and Dean was the guy that kind of had the creative publisher role. But Kat was his girlfriend, and I had met them at cons, you know, and when you're at a con, everybody's standing up and mingling. But when I went to Eclipse's office, I remember seeing Kat sitting on the floor clipping her toenails. And I thought that's always been my first image of Kat meeting her in a non-con setting. It's just, she's kind of this hippie, eccentric hippie girl that was, you know, she had a lot of great ideas and stuff, but we kind of clashed at times because she's of a Jewish faith and I'm more of a Christian faith. And every once in a while I would try to put something in reference to my faith in the comics, and she would have a hard time with that. So.
You know, creative differences, that's what it's all about. I'm just checking, we've got a few more people in the chat here. There, Demon, 24 Eyes, and World Comics Review. Good seeing you there, mate. And,
hey, guys.
Yes, as I just brought up there, you are indeed living comic history.
Oh, you guys are too kind. I feel in my age lately. My knees are starting to ache a little bit, and
oh, I hear you, man.
I feel good. I feel good.
I hear you. Right. Actually, did you ever try to draw as well as write your own stories?
I did. Yeah, actually. Hang on just a second. Let me go grab something I just found. I'll be right back.
I did forget to tell Don that sometimes my Mac crashes halfway through the stream and I disappear. So if that does happen, you guys take care of it.
I'm coming. That's the nice thing about being able to stream from your house, is that you can just grab stuff. But yeah, I did I'm on a green screen, so the green part of this cover is see-through. But I did a book back in the 90s with Sam Ray. This is called Arrow Man. And this was a character that I drew. I created him in high school. And so this is actually my pencils and his inks. And Sam Ray was a guy that I just happened to meet here in Northern California. And he found my fanzine, the one that I did with my friends in high school. And he had a huge influence. I mean, this is all his lettering back in the 90s. So you could see he was very professional. And his son, Bill Ray, a lot of people may know him because Bill worked on Ren and Stimpy as a colorist, and then he worked on Bernie Wrightson's Batman project with him, I think, doing that. So this is kind of my attempt at trying to draw. You know, I'm more of a cartoony style, but I on occasion, like on auction streams, I might whip up something. But I miss drawing. I really like to doodle a lot growing up, and I just kind of found that it was quicker for me to be a writer than it is to draw. So I've had a lot of people come through my doors that I've collaborated with that are so much more talented than myself. But I'm not afraid to pick up the pencil and pen at times. I'm not a digital artist, though.
That's cool. No, I mean, digital art is just a different tool. You know, that's the way I approach. I always try to make my digital art look as if it's been drawn by hand traditionally. You know, so
yeah, it looks like I had a hard time, distinguishing from the Ilsa whether it was traditional or digital.
Yeah, I use effects that people say, "Oh, that's obviously done in Photoshop," you know. But other than that kind of thing, I try to make everything look as if I've just drawn it on paper. I think. But the reason I ask is because you do have in the one strip you do draw in your X-Cons. Now, this is what I call the burn effect. I'm sure
exactly.
That's what you were thinking of when you did it, when you, which is any X Alpha Flight fan will get that straight away when they're reading this. So even before I'd read it, I started laughing when I saw this page because I remember buying that particular issue of Alpha Force.
Yeah, that was Snowblind, I think, was the issue with John Byrne. I think it was like 90% word balloons.
It was 90%. There was a snowstorm, so everything was like a snowstorm.
Exactly.
It was quite
So,
funny.
this
But yeah,
is my kind of my homage to that, because Byrne was like my favorite creator growing up from the X-Men, and even before that, he was doing stuff for Charlton, and I saw his work and I said I really like his line work, and obviously he's a great writer as well. But the X-Men run that he did with Claremont and Terry Austin are like probably some of my favorite
definitely
titles.
Cool. But yeah, just to bring that up because that just made me laugh. So I'm going to go to your first choice tonight. Originally, when I came up with the idea of doing this show, it was kind of like we've got a show in the UK on the radio called Desert Island Discs, where people pick, the songs that are the records that they would take with them if they could take them to a desert island, if they had a choice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so that was my idea of getting people to pick sort of like comics, that influenced them and they really liked. And we've got a few of your choices here. And we'll start with, there you go.
Peanuts.
Yeah. Much, that's the best of the lot, really, isn't it? It's Schultz's Peanuts. When did you first really get into reading Peanuts?
Wullie, I was down at my parents' restaurant. My parents owned a Chinese restaurant as I was growing up in the 70s, and somebody gifted me a Mattel Peanuts hardcover set. It came like in a little cardboard case, and there was like 7 or 8 volumes of Peanuts collections in it, and they were kind of a flip format. So one half of the book would be like, about Snoopy, and then the other half would be more like your general Charlie Brown. So I just read those books until the covers basically fell off, and I would trace Peanuts characters. And I just remember my fondest memories at the restaurant when my parents were working was just reading comics, and Peanuts were like the go-to until I found out about other comics. Comic strips were very, very influential to my comic book career. So Schultz is definitely up there. My wife and I actually got to meet him before he passed away.
Oh, really?
And he's also a Northern California person, and we got to go to his studio and meet his staff and sit in on a meeting with him. So I was very starstruck when I got to meet him.
Imagine. That's cool. That's so cool. On this image here, I've put up like a selection of the Corgi paperbacks, and that's where I first, because there's my sister and my brother and my whole family liked it. I was the youngest child. They'd buy these paperbacks, which collected all the strips, and they'd reformat them to maybe 2 panels a page, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way as they did with the Don Martin and Sergio Aragonés stuff, with the mad stuff. And so I was read these until, as you did, until the covers were just about going to fall off them. And then it was in the newspaper as well that we got. So we would buy all the newspapers in our household. So I would read that every day as well in the newspaper. So it was interesting because you were reading the 1950s and 60s strips at the same time as I was reading the 1970s ones as they came out every day in the newspaper. The consistency of his work as well. I don't know how anybody can be as consistent as that. It would drive me crazy to even try and be as consistent as that. Even he's things to help you.
He's a very phenomenal artist and writer, and a lot of, I think Calvin and Hobbes has that same type of feel.
Yeah, there's a definite kind of thread. You can see the evolution coming from Schultz to Calvin and Hobbes. But yeah, that's Peanuts.
Peanuts.
So, which he never liked. He never liked that name either, did he?
Right. I think it was like Little Folk or something originally.
Little Folk, and then but they said no, we're calling it Peanuts, and that's weird. Been stuck working on a strip that you love so much for decades, and you hate the name of it. But hey, I suppose the money kind of takes away some of that pain. So the next choice, slightly different.
Yes. Oh man, from Peanuts to heavy metal. From my adolescence to my my puberty years.
Yeah, it's a sudden jump from this to this.
Yeah, I think we my friends and I.
But you're allowed
Gosh,
to read this, or did you read it in secret?
I don't know how we got a hold of it. I don't think they were. I think they were in newsstands, but sometimes they would make sure you were the right age. Or I used to frequent these paraphernalia shops before they sprang up on every corner, and I wasn't like into the drug scene, but I was into the underground comics, and so that's kind of how I found out about the more kind of mature stuff like Von Baudet, Robert Crumb. You can tell that Parsanovich was very kind of more Mobius influenced, but he liked Crumb as well. But heavy metal, I think, to be honest with you, Wooly, it's not only was it because the stories and art were so great, it's because you'd always get, some nudity and in heavy metal,
which is no bad thing. And in the news agents here, it was always on the top shelf next to the Playboy and everything like that. So if you bought heavy metal, you'd have to hide it inside a Playboy.
I was too small. I have to get a stool.
But I did find it was in record stores would get it in as well. So because that's where I was able to buy the Freak Brothers and Freddy's Cat and all that kind of stuff and all those comics. So I would buy some heavy metal comics. Really coming into the 80s. That issue there in the centre is one that I had, which was actually a really good issue, and it had Jim Steranko's Outland in it. It's one of these rare, because I do like the movie because it's Sean Connery, of course. I like the movie.
I love
his adaptation is one of these rare occasions where the adaptation is probably better than the movie. His comic book of Outland. So I remember really that was a very good issue, and
I tried to find the collected Outland on eBay, and it's hard to find. I mean, it's like $100.
Yeah, I was the same just a few months ago. I had a look for it, and it was far too expensive for me to.
I don't know if you know this, but Steranko is very active on Twitter on Sunday nights, and you can actually interact with him. If you ask him questions, he spends like from 7 to 8 p.m. I think Eastern Standard Time interacting with his fans, and he affectionately calls us his henchmen. And so for the last few months, I've been tweeting Steranko, and he'll actually write you back, and he'll just have a conversation with you. And so I was so touched by that, and I actually offered to send him some of my comics, like the ones that you're getting, because I just wanted to give back to him. So he gave me his address, and I'm sending him some Parody Press comics. But I loved his work so much, especially Captain America, and so I tried to do a deep dive on him, and I found out his very first work was published work was something called Spy Man for Harvey Comics. So I just bought a used issue of Spy Man that's on its way to me, and it's got the very first Steranko artwork in it. Cool. So I'm looking forward to getting that in my hands and posting a picture and asking Steranko what he remembers about that project.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I'll need to do that because I noticed on Twitter that he did that this week. Or he was talking to you on Twitter, so I might just have to sit up late some Sunday night. And,
you should
and ask him some questions.
I was gonna say you picked some awesome samples of heavy metal, because not only do you have the Outland one in the middle, but the Alien one that you're showing with the orange logo, that was really what inspired me and Parsanovich to do our own comic book in high school, was the Alien adaptation. So our very first issue of Overload, which was a black and white kind of a magazine sized comic book, was a spoof of Alien. So we took Alien. It was R-rated. It was fairly crude, but that was our very first published work, was 1979 in Overload.
Cool. We've got a wee question there.
That's a great question, Rex. I was just going to say, we actually have one of my influences coming up that did some work in Plop.
Oh, cool. So I was thinking that, but I'm ignoring the chat a little bit here. I'm just going to have a quick look. I do notice that Adams was noting that. There you go. There we go. I'm on that Adams. I've already swapped over to another one, so I should have another 6 months to go in with it, because they only give you 6 months with your mailing list up there, and then they take it down. So I've got to grab the people that have mailed me, get the spreadsheet, and then start the exact same one again as a new one. It plays hell with the links that are already out there, but it's the only kind of way you can do it.
Rex mentions Plop, and one of the guys in Plop, the main cover artist, I don't know if you used to read Plop, was I think Basil Wolverton.
He did a lot of the really cool, wasn't it? Yeah. He did the grotesque covers, didn't he? It was like
the real ugly, cavernous, people, and
they kind of scared me as a kid, I got to admit.
I think he was the EC. He had some stuff in EC as well. Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah, I've pulled up the ones that kind of came to mind to me straight away from when I was reading heavy metal. Paul Kirchner's The Bus, which was on every other issue, which was just
very good,
terrific stuff. It was like surreal and weird, and I'm pretty sure when the first time I looked at it, I was like, "What's this doing in this movie? In this magazine with the women with the breastplates and the swords and all that kind of stuff." Also, Guido Crepax did all the kind of like the dirty stuff. Is the only way you can put it. Richard Corbin, Den, of course, which was like a kind of
Corbin, huge Corbin fan. Yeah.
Inky Bilal was a big favorite of mine.
His colors were mouth-watering. This is the way that he could. The colors on his artwork, and obviously the 3D, and he had the well-endowed women.
It's weird because his artwork looks like it was digitally colored because it's so bright and lush, whereas it wasn't. It's all traditional artwork, and Mobius, of course. But this is like what I was saying about your X-Con and X-Farce stuff is if you're going to do an anthology of stuff, getting as many different kind of feels and looks is the way to go, and that's what heavy metal did brilliantly every month.
Yeah, you're bringing up the Kirchner. I had forgotten about him, but he was like one of the favorite things I would look forward to when he was in that magazine.
Yeah, you can get a lot of his books now, kind of like in hardback online. It was Jake Twister on Twitter kind of put me onto them. So he's got them all out there in really nice editions.
I love all the way that you prepared these graphics ahead of time.
Oh, cheers! It's like I'm glad somebody did. Yeah, no, this is what I do for this particular show. It's usually a bit easier because usually I get people choose The Watchmen, The Killing Joke, and Judge Dredd. So I've already got them made up.
Yeah. We're a little older, so I think we have a bigger palette to choose from.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I was so glad when you didn't choose A Killing Joke. But you did choose latter day 70s Jack Kirby. And I've got two slides here. I think this is the Marvel one. Mine is the Eternals, which I just stuck with 2001 Machine Man and Devil Dinosaur, because it's almost like forgotten comics history that Jack Kirby did the adaptation to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then continued it in a comic and created Machine Man. And only Jack Kirby could have done that. I can't think of any creator that would have had the balls to do that and take it the way he did.
I don't think anyone ever has.
No.
Done an adaptation and then it spun off into its own character on it in the Marvel universe.
So what is it about Kirby's later Marvel work that you like so much?
I think just my recollection of getting into comics, when I was in elementary school, I would ride my bike to my middle school, and on the way to the school, either before or after school, I would stop by a convenience store. We call them Circle K over here. It's like a 7-Eleven, and they had a spinner rack. And every week, I would save up my money and I would go and buy the best comics that I saw. So I got into mainly Marvels, but I did buy some DC titles back in the day, like the 35-cent one, like the Devil Dinosaur that you showed. That's about when I was in middle school. So I was buying comics in the late 70s. And so when I saw, I don't think I knew about 2001. I don't think it was on the spinner rack, but when Machine Man #1 came out, which was 79, I immediately was drawn to how cool that cover was. And I hadn't really appreciated Kirby's larger than life visuals until that time. And there was just something to me that was so bold and powerful and exciting about his work. It just kind of made me become a fan. And so then I started to collect his earlier stuff. And that's how I found out that he was in 2001 first. And then he did all that earlier DC work like OMAC and Commandy. Yeah, there you go. Commandy and OMAC.
There you go. I mean, I was drawn to, as Adams has got in his list here, Beano Thundercats, the UK, and the X-Men. Because we would get comics every week in the UK, and there'd be anthology comics like 2000 AD. That's kind of comics we always got. So we were getting, Marvel were reprinting all of their 1960s comics weekly in the UK, while these comics were coming out on, and we were getting them sporadically. So I'd maybe get 2 issues of Command-I, then miss 3, and then get another 2.
Oh, bummer.
You know, so we'd never get a complete run of anything. It would be a case of like, but you would have all the earlier stuff getting reprinted. So we were looking at 70s Kirby and 60s Kirby at the same time.
Oh, wow.
In the comics. And the 60s one, the weekly ones were all in black and white. So it was pure Kirby line work. So it was that kind of education you were getting, where you were seeing the Silver Age and the Bronze Age at the same time. And then DC started reprinting a lot of the Golden Age stuff in the back of their comics. So suddenly you were getting a bit of an education in the Golden Age stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I've never understood why people didn't just love Kirby from the get-go. Because I just think anybody who draws figures like that with their square fingers and everything else, it's just kind of cool. You know,
yeah.
You love it.
I'd say I wasn't a huge fan of the way he drew women. I don't think his women were quite as fetching as you know, some of the other artists. So that to me was maybe one of the weak points that I think that I have. You know, I'm not saying that I could draw a woman any better, but
yeah,
they were kind of masculine looking.
Yeah, that's his best female character is Big Barda.
Yes.
Yeah, because
I agree.
He drew powerful, strong, powerful women. Yeah,
right.
Definitely. But I think that issue 3 of OMAC was the first one that I got. It was one at the bottom right there. And I remember seeing Commandy. I never got the first issue of that, but I knew looking at it, it was Planet of the Apes, and I love Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
So I was totally in for that.
I posted, I think a few months ago, Keith Gleason, who is a collaborator on some of our books, he went to a comic book store, and on the side of the comic book store, someone did a mural about the same image that you're showing on the left of the first Commandy, and it's just a dead-on Kirby on the side of a wall of a comic book store. It was awesome.
Adams is saying Commando over Commandy. Just saying that was it. Still is published. It's probably one of the longest-running comics we get published over in the UK, which is like it's
like a G.I. Joe, or
it's a different war story out in every issue from. So it's not continued characters. It's just a single standalone, small 64-page comic book with a single story.
I like the old DC war books. So like the Losers and anything that Kubert did, Alex Toth, Russ Heath. Those were all fun reads. So I do have a place in my heart for those old war comics.
Yeah, I've kind of like I know as a kid I would. The amount of times I imagined what an Unknown Soldier movie would have been like. But,
oh yes, great idea.
I also remember imagining often what a Jonah Hex movie would be like. Unfortunately, it happened.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't very good. I didn't see it.
I stuck with it for 10 minutes and went, I'm out of here. I couldn't
Hey,
go
Commie
anymore.
Mark. I see Commie's in the chat now.
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Oh, he's doing all the heals and getting them in, but you get heal blocked. So next up, now we're on territory. We'll be heading back to Plop now that we're on this territory. Mad Magazine.
I think I had that one at one time, the Jaws one.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't have a lot of Mads anymore, unfortunately. I wish I did.
I mean, that might have been the first Mad that I had. Definitely round about then, anyway. You know, that's when I was probably buying them myself when I was like 9 or 10. But what I loved about Mad Magazine was it had just, there wasn't a single creator on that magazine that wasn't at the top of their game, I don't think. What was it about Mad Magazine that kind of drew you to it?
Well, the covers were always fun with Alfred E. Newman, but like I said, the main thing that I bought it for was the movie parodies, but I also like the fold out covers in the back, you know, the one that Al Jaffe did on the inside cover. It's probably really hard to find mint condition Mads back in the day because everybody folded the back covers to figure out what the hidden image was. But I like Sergio.
I would try and fold them without actually folding them sometimes, you know, but you'd have to give in and fold them properly.
Anything Sergio did, Don Martin, Spy versus Spy. These are all things that are kind of coming to mind. And obviously you're showing some Drucker, classic Star Wars. So yeah, you're right. They were all at the top of their game and you'd laugh. And then every once in a while on the letters pages, they would show celebrities holding the Mad Magazine that they were parodied in. And that to me would be an honor if Keanu Reeves got a copy. I sent Boom Studios a whole selection of Beardzerkers, hoping that they would get in the right hands and that they would take it with a grain of salt, that we weren't trying to, you know, be malicious, but more of a parody out of love than anything else.
Yeah, that's what I said at the start. It definitely comes across that way. I think if it got into his hands, he definitely would share it. He's
I hope so. You never know.
Yeah.
He might be bored one day and post the picture. It's kind of the way that I would have written a Bill and Ted movie, if you couldn't guess. That's I was very much, I think that's the strongest thread in Beardzerker is the homage to Bill and Ted, because that growing up in the 80s, that was one of my favorite movies.
Yes, it definitely comes through in that. Again, I was reading the Warner books as well. They were bringing out like the Don Martin and the Incurably Mad by Sergio Aragonés.
Yes.
I think I was surprised because there was a slipcase of all the complete Don Martin that was done a few years ago. I got a copy of that. It's like a oversized 2 books in a slipcase.
Oh, really?
I was surprised he didn't write the strips. He just drew them. He didn't really write the gags. It's like the gags were written for him. Don Martin drew the gags. I'm trying to remember I read it in that, or it might have been on a Gilbert Gottfried podcast that I heard. It might have been on one of those. Yeah.
Wow.
I think he did a podcast with Al Jaffe.
Is Sergio still alive? I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah. Probably.
Did you read Gru?
Gru meets Conan. They did that that was a few years ago, but that's quite recent. I loved Gru. Gru was like a terrific kind of like take off for Conan. Just the way it gloriously, wantonly killed people all the way through the comic, no consequences. Gru was terrific. I've still got the original issues of that. That's one I've held on to. But yeah, Mad Magazine. Yeah, I think it just again, like I said at the start, just everybody was at the top of their game, and they were there every issue. You know, it's every issue you knew they were going to be there, and they were. And Mort Drucker also did some great movie posters too. So I pulled up that one, for instance, for the Long Goodbye, which could just be a panel from a Mad parody.
Yes.
We did a show when we started doing this at the very beginning. Me and Stato, we did a show on kind of like detective movies, that kind of stuff, and we talked about The Long Goodbye, and it was a bit of a flop. But they had a showing of it in New York, and they got Mort Drucker to do this poster, and it did better with this poster promoting it than it did with the actual promotion that the studio had behind it, because it was more evocative for the kind of like the feel of the movie.
That's great. I've never seen that, but I'll have to do a deep dive on other movie posters that he drew.
Yeah, but that's one of my favorites. But yeah,
is that Drucker or Davis? Chubb's asking that. Is that?
Was that? I thought it was Drucker. Is it Jack Davis?
Oh,
I might be wrong. Let's have a look.
It's okay. They're kind of interchangeable at times. Davis was also EC guy, I think. He did some. He might have done some horror stuff for them, but.
Oh, it might be Jack Davis. Oh, yep, I was wrong.
Chubb knows his.
Way to go!
Knows his old artwork. Good job,
Way
Chubb.
to go! Yeah, thanks for that, Chubb. Oh, I shouldn't be drinking whiskey when I'm putting these things together. But Jack Davis,
it definitely has the Mad Magazine square captions.
I meant Jack Davis. That's what I meant. That was my drunk voice. But yeah, Mad Magazine. Leads to Cracked magazine.
Yes, Cracked was like the ugly stepsister to Mad.
Your work was in that issue.
Yeah, it was. That's funny. Yep. I was in number 200. That's an easy one to remember.
They don't give you credits to actually make it easy to find out who worked on what in Cracked. As far as I remember, thinking back, you would know certain people would sign their work and you would know it, but it wasn't always evident who was working on what strip.
Right. They never signed, like on Mad, they would give the credit to the writer and the artist. And every once in a while on Cracked, you might see the artist sign that they did it. They never would. It was always like on the first page of Cracked, they would lump all the writers and the artists together.
So John Severin, of course, would sign his work. Bill Ward, something like that, would sign their work. But yeah, that always annoyed me, even when I was a kid. I didn't know who was involved. So there was a lot of good stuff in Cracked, but again, it was that lack of consistency as a magazine that kind of didn't make it quite reach the level that Mad. Exactly. So what did you work on? Can you remember what your work was on this issue?
I did some inside, like every once in a while they would do a poster out of the cover. So I would submit ideas like, believe it or not, I just said, how about if you have a poster that says Po Buddy's Nerfict on it, and they printed it. So if you in one of these books, you can open up the cover and there's a huge yellow and black poster that says Po Buddy's Nerfict. You can post it on your wall if you wanted to. I did a lot of wordplay stuff for them, word jumbles, and the only thing I got published that was with artwork was One Day at the Beach, and it's a one-page strip, and basically these boys find a magic lamp on the beach and they rub it, and this genie comes out, and the genie says, I'm the genie of the magic lamp. I will grant you any one wish that you want. So the boy says, well, we want to be a big rock group. And so there's this big poof, and the next panel on the end of the story is the three boys have turned into rocks, and the genie, So anyways, that was just kind of a fun, I think Warren Sattler might have drawn that particular piece. I always wanted to work with Severin, but like I said, he was the guy that did all the movie parodies, and I think they already had a team kind of designated to do those every month. Yeah,
because Severin would be he'd be doing the Marvel parodies as well at Not Brand X.
Right. Yeah, he was great. Like not Brand X maybe, and things like that.
Yeah, the fact that he could do that again is another great EC comic book artist. not to be confused with Mort Drucker. But he also did Cull the Conqueror. So he was working on essentially the barbarian stories, war stories, really kind of serious, kind of like po-faced comic book stuff at the same time that he was doing all the comedy stuff.
I think he inked Herb Trimp on a lot of the early Hulk issues too.
He did, yeah.
And his sister Marie obviously was one of the influential Hulk illustrators. A woman in comics back in the 60s. She's pretty groundbreaking.
And she was involved in the colouring in the 50s for EC Comics. So you hear me going about that in our shows about EC, because they recolour all and basically decimate all the work she did. But yeah. Just a wee side note, here's a couple of pages for Beardzerker. The link is down below in the description. And if anybody wants to drop it into the chat, please do. It's highly recommended. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's Bill Mouse, a longtime collaborator. And this is the first book I ever did with him and his daughter. His daughter, Kat, was the colorist on that. And so it's a full 32-page book. It's on really nice, almost kind of like that nice Baxter stock that you would get, like Marvel Fanfare was printed on. And we had a good time with this. It was a little bit late. I apologize. So I gave everybody that backed it a bonus issue of Heroes, which was another spoof we did in 2007. But it turned out well. I was a little rusty. I hadn't written anything other than X-Farce, a couple small stories in there. So this was my first book in like almost, on Heroes, I was just the publisher. So honestly, I haven't written anything since like the late 90s, other than the Cyber Frog Hamsters book that was put on the shelf. So this is my first full-blown parody in like almost 20, 30 years.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know it. It reads well.
Thank you, Wullie.
Just Chubb's asking a question there. Did Mary Severin work at Cracked too?
I would think maybe she did.
Yeah, because she would often ink her brother's work as well, wouldn't she? Did they not work together?
I think they did. I think there's probably some kind of database that would show all of her creative work.
Yeah. Oh, what's the fun in that? We'll just make it up as we go.
We don't know.
We don't know. Okay, we're on to your final choices, and we're also going to be joined for this choice by Jinx. Who's this? Who's this? Who's here?
All right, I'm here. We can start the show.
Stato,
ready to do it.
I love it. Is that a hamster, Clint? Or
no, this is middle-aged, also adolescent, Nobel Peace Prize winning Stat Zerker.
I love that. You'll have to tweet that, my friend, and I'll share it. I love it. Oh man, that needs to be on a little round button.
Stretch goals.
Stato, you're awesome. I love that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Now that Stato has joined us, because I know what have you thought of the choices so far then, Stato? Ed, that you were surprised you?
My neck hurts. I've been nodding a lot.
Nodding a lot. That's good. That is good.
Awesome.
That's good. You're going to love this. I've lumped everything in together here, which is like the Warren horror comics.
Oh, geez, I see how you are.
The DC horror comics.
They all look the same.
No, they don't all look the same. And I've also put in, so I don't know if you meant to include it, but I've also put in the Spectre here as well.
At least at a far run for sure.
Because that's probably the most horrific stuff DC ever did.
Good call. Yeah, lots of Bernie. I think Plop had a couple Bernie stories, but his Swamp Thing and anything he did for House of Mystery, I would try to pick up. And I just, the creepy issue that was all Bernie Wrightson, that's one of my things I'll probably never part with. So Vampy. I don't think I bought Vampy because I was afraid my mom would find out. So.
Oh, funnily enough, that was my favorite. So
Heavy metal you could hide because you can see, oh, it's just painted stuff, you know. There's nothing in that. But Vampy, you had a lot of cleavage.
You did. They did. There was lots to recommend. I pulled up these two images as well because you talked about the Bernie Wrightson stuff that they collected together, and the two that I always think of are the Black Cat and Jennifer, which is probably the most disturbing story I'd ever read in a comic book at the time. Made into an equally disturbing episode of Masters of Horror by the Dario Argento directed. If anybody's interested in checking that out, it's even more disturbing as a movie. Great. It was as a comic. But
look at that artwork. I mean, it's just so organic and just you can just stare at it, you know, and just try to all the lighting and shading. It's just so luscious, and I miss him, man. He was so good, such a humble guy, and anything I could pick up with Wrightson, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely one of the masters of horror. But yeah, so I mean, it's one of these things where you've got horror anthologies. You had the Mad, the comic anthologies. You had all of these kind of comics that you don't get anymore, really. That they wouldn't even think about putting out there.
But you're doing one, so that's awesome.
I'm doing one. Yeah, I'm doing one because I think they're great. I think if you do them right, everybody finds something in there they're kind of going to enjoy.
Is yours going to be like a what age group would you say your horror book will be for?
I say it's like all ages. If your parents let you read it. It doesn't have any bad swearing in it, you know, particularly it doesn't go beyond PG-13. It doesn't even go to PG-13 with the swearing. So language doesn't have that, doesn't have any sex in it. It has lots of gratuitous violence though. But
sure.
I think kids are fine with that. I think they're okay with that. So so I would say probably definitely from the ages of 9 upwards, you'd be fine.
Is Stato contributing?
Oh no, this is a reprint he's doing.
This is This is all done.
Okay.
Because I did them as anthology, as 4 issues. I did it as a quarterly.
Can't wait! I'll definitely be back in that.
Actually, there is. Now that I think about it, there's a whole story that's about sex. I take that back. Maybe the age 13 and over. Maybe not.
I was going to say, is that something you're going to scribble together really fast to keep that from
quick 2-pager.
Oh yeah, that's right. There is one.
There is one. That's right. I tweeted it out. You know, no, there is. There definitely is one. I can show you images to prove it. But this is our family show, so we don't do that.
Oh, for shame.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to do something that was highly kind of like old school. You know, you picked up heavy metal, you picked up 2000 AD. 2000 AD, you'd have Brian Boland, you'd have Mike McMahon, you'd have Brendan McCarthy, and you'd have Ron Smith, all completely different. And then there would be Massimo Bellardinelli, and you go, what the hell is that? You know, and it's like you kind of gravitated towards certain artists, and you would buy anthologies because certain artists were working on them, and then you'd be introduced to new ones at the same time.
Exactly.
And that's far more interesting than just sticking with one comic every month because this guy's drawing it. You know, we all did that too, but it wasn't quite as exciting as opening up and hoping that you were going to get a bunch of really good artists and writers working on it. And definitely throughout the 70s anyway, that was the case most of the time with these comics. They were always fun.
Were there any Scottish artists that we would know from our growing up that made it big?
Cam Kennedy,
Frank Quitely, of course. I'm thinking ones that didn't make it big were probably Jim Bakey, who I think did some stuff in the US. but he did a lot of work in British comics. And the biggest of them all, you wouldn't even have heard of, was Dudley D. Watkins, who created characters in the comic The Beano over here. You know, he would draw characters like the Bash Street Kids. And my comic, Heroes of Dark, has bad guys in it called the Bampots, and they are like a parody of the Bash Street Kids. Imagine, what if you took these children's comic, and instead of having them as like naughty children, turned them into flesh-eating ghouls. So that's what I did.
Nice.
Kind of nice.
Kind of naughty. Yeah, kind of naughty. But yeah, there's bound to be other ones as well, but which are kind of like escaping me right now. But those are the ones that come to mind. But yeah, Cam Kennedy's probably the biggest because he's probably done with the Star Wars stuff.
He did the Dark Empire.
Yeah, he's probably been most by more people than anybody, I would imagine.
Okay, nice. So did you were you a Swamp Thing fan when it was coming out, Wullie, instead, or?
I got, I believe it was the 2 issues towards the end of the run once Bernie Wrightson was off it. So was it Nestor Redondo that was on it?
Yeah, he was good too.
Yeah, so he was good too, but it was turning into a kind of superhero comic at that point. But I'd read the Brave and the Bold with Swamp Thing in it. So that was the Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing. So I was aware of what the Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing was like. So
I'll have to pick that up. I don't think I was aware of that they did a Brave and the Bold together.
Yeah, no, it was the issue of Swamp Thing where they had Batman.
Swamp Thing.
Okay. I was just calling it.
It's like a 3-parter, I think.
Yeah,
Saga
so
of the
that
Swamp Thing, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the one that I'd read that, but I never really got all the real horror-y type Swamp Thing stuff leading up to it. I had to get them in the reprints once I started reprinting them.
Stato, how old are you, by the way? I don't think I know.
98 years young.
No.
36.
36. Okay. Awesome. You know a lot about comics for a 30 something year old.
Spent a lot of time in the middle of the country alone with a stack of books.
Yeah, it's good taste.
Nice.
But yeah, that's your selection for what would be your desert island comics, I suppose, if you were stranded.
Yeah, man.
Favorite episode so far? Don't mind saying.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. Top guest. Yeah, Dudley D. Watkins defined the entire look of British comics. Excellent. World Comics Review also knows his comics and his pulp stuff. That's what he does. So I'm going to just, before we finish this off, I'm going to quickly go. Earlier on, you mentioned Frankenstein. This is why, because next week, me and Stato are going to be looking at all of the Peter Cushing and non-Peter Cushing Frankensteins that Hammer movies made, and we'll be talking about them and our thoughts on them, and Willie and Stato with the movies. So that's what we're up to next week.
Awesome. I remember the Hammer movies back in the day. Christopher Lee was in quite a few, right?
Yeah, Christopher Lee, he was their Dracula, and a few other characters.
He was like, I don't know, would you say Peter Cushing was like the star? Like, if you looked at Hammer and you had to choose one guy to put on the poster.
Peter Cushing was a star because he was the established star when they started making him.
Sure.
They pretty much discovered Christopher Lee in the Frankenstein, Curse of Frankenstein.
It wasn't hard to discover him. He's what, 6'2"?
Yeah, that's how we got it. But thankfully, he can act as well. So that went on to him becoming Dracula. So yeah, Cushing was really the established star, and the critics at the time thought he was slumming it by making these kind of movies, because you know what critics are like. If you don't make the kind of movies they want you to make, then you're slumming it.
Have you guys seen their actors' notes that they had on their scripts, Cushing and Lee, for like Dracula and stuff?
Yeah,
Peter Cushing would have like all these notes. He'd have like a Bible verse taped in there and stuff like that for Van Helsing and stuff. And Christopher Lee's was very clean, and every once in a while he'd be writing something like, "No, but this dialogue is ludicrous."
Well, Peter Cushing would always work with props and things that he would bring along for the character, and his scripts are full of like little kind of like annotations as to what he's thinking at that particular point, and maybe what he's now going to play with his glasses and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, Christopher Lee was just like, "This is crap." I'm not going to say that. Good stuff.
That's all right.
Right. Well, that is us. So I just want to say, we usually try and make these about an hour. We're going a bit longer because we're having so much fun. I just want to say to everybody in the chat, thanks for joining us. Down below are links to Don's Indiegogos. They're really worth having a look at and backing. And so is mine, just saying that. And
yes, definitely.
Give them a wee look. And big thank you to Don for coming on tonight and talking comics. We could do this all night. And it's good that I didn't have to talk about the Killing Joke again. Thanks for that alone. So yeah, a bit before we go, well, we're going to go, but I'm going to leave you with the trailer for Beard Zerker to give you a little feel for it. So good night, everybody, and cheers, Don, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Comics are totally awesome. And I'm totally awesome too. Beard Zerker has everything you want from a comic book. It's got great drawings, colors, great story. It's got great action, has a little romance, and it's about something. Not just any something. It's a parody of some thing. I was like, well, I used to collect and I love comic books. And they were like, so, did you ever want to make a comic book? And I was like, yeah. And then Parody Press was like, oh, yeah. So they made a comic book that's a parody of my comic book. And it will probably be pretty hilarious, because that's what a parody is. Or at least what it's supposed to be. You know, this idea of kind of like a rock and roll warrior. Someone in an altered state. Someone with a big guitar axe. Then a pet cat that's from the hood. Just out of control. Speaking of out of control, there's his beard. It gets bigger and longer throughout the book until it takes on a fantastical life of its own. It's like, whoa! So, check it out. If you do, I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. But honestly, I didn't really do that much, other than rambling on about comics and books. I mean, comic books. Wait, what was I saying? Oh well. Enjoy!